Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Neighbourhood Plan Committee review for the joint Henley and Harpston Neighbourhood Plan. That's our first meeting of the new year. First item is apologies for absence. I've received none. Kath or Jodie, have you received anybody? No? Okay. Item 2, declaration of interest. Does anybody have any pecuniary declarations of interest on the agenda this afternoon?
No.
No landowners? No. Anybody? Okay, thank you. Item 3, public participation. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak? Jodie, Kath? Anybody? No? This is going well. Item 4, notes to approve the notes of the meeting of the Neighbourhood Plan of the 7th of December 2020. Can I take those as read? Yeah, all in favour? That's agreed.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Item 5, thank you. Item 5, update from Planning Officer. I'll pass you over to Jodie for this one. Jodie, please.
Yeah, so since the last committee, we've been progressing with the policies for the neighbourhood plan. Met with Ricardo from SODC and also Communities Officer at OCC to help provide a baseline and to steer our policies specifically around transport and climate emergency. So they're developing quite nicely now. ACOM are currently doing some work for us on this to help support our policy intentions and to provide the evidence base for that. And they're focusing their efforts on 15 policies, again, on transport and climate emergency. So as well as that, we've got the neighbourhood plan survey, which is now live, and the deadline for that has been extended until next Monday, the 1st of February. Some more flyers have been sent out to houses within Henley to publicise that a bit further and to let them know that the deadline's been extended. As well as that, obviously with more COVID-19 restrictions in place, we're not going to be able to have our exhibitions as planned in February, so we're going to have to push those back. We've now planned to hold them on the 9th and 10th of April, so I can give you more details of that later on. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Kester.
How is the survey going? Do we know what sort of response we're getting?
We'd had, what was the last count, Kath? Was it about 400 and something? That was
400s, I think.
Yeah, in the 400s, but that, there'll be more now. I haven't got the updated from today though, so.
It did seem an excellent response so far anyway, which has been good, but there were 2 or 3 rows that were missed out, so we've decided to get the company that unfortunately missed them out to carry on, which will take place from next Friday onwards, so they then have another 3 days to respond, but then covers the whole area. Perhaps we should have got Harpston to do the deliveries for us.
Well, thank you.
Any more questions, Rebecca?
I was just going to say to Jodie that you've been sending around an email about care homes and the work that we did about care home numbers. Unfortunately, I can't find that document either. I know what document you mean, and it's a combination of some information we were given by SODC about how they calculate care home numbers, but also put together with some a very useful document from ONS looking at demographic trends, and I'll see if I can find that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Jodie, I've sent you an email to say I've found one or two more bits and pieces, but they're not in electronic form. I've got the original questionnaire we sent. I've got some of the original responses from some of the care homes, and I've got a handwritten notes on a list of care homes. But again, a lot of this information is slightly out of date. And I've got the same document that Rebecca mentioned about the definitions of care homes. I've actually got that, a printed copy of that, but not in electronic form. However, I got that, I think, from their website, so it might still be available. But I can do copies if you let me know where you would like me to send them to.
Okay, thank you. I'll let you know. I'll send you an email. Thank you.
Remind me on that, Joan. Did or probably Rebecca as well? Did ex-councillor Jane Smewing do some research on care homes?
Yes. It was only. I've just got one little, fairly short note from her, which was incorporated into the report that we sent.
That's what I remember. Yeah,
I could probably find that one, but I don't think it would add a great deal more than we've already got.
but that was an excellent report on numbers, though, wasn't it? If I remember correctly.
That's unfortunately the Excel spreadsheet that's not there. But I say I have got scribbled notes of what the numbers were in 2018, but clearly that will need to be updated.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else wish to ask Jodie any questions? No, I see none. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 6, which is the updates from the working groups. The first one, schools, colleges, doctors, surgeries and utilities. I'm not sure if you've got anything to add on that either, Rebecca.
No, not at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that. And likewise with the item little 2, libraries, community hall, sports, leisure.
Yeah. What I would like for that, Ken, if possible, is a date by which you want it, because there's no point keep updating it on a month-by-month basis with everything keep getting postponed. And particularly with COVID, when everything is just in limbo at the moment, and indeed one wonders, one thinks that perhaps some of the places may not reopen. Everything is so uncertain at the moment. So if we had a date by which you really want it, then there would be a point in updating it. But without a date by which you do need it,
yeah, that's good. Well, I think we're almost really at the end of the road on these, on some of these at the moment. So
do you like it updating them for the next meeting?
Let's just listen to Jodie and then Jodie will answer.
Yeah, it would be good to get for the next meeting, because we're aiming for this exhibition to be the policies and the sites. So the next meeting in the beginning of March could then give us enough time to review that and prepare that in time for the public engagement.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. The next one on small 3, little 3 is transport. Patrick.
Yeah, just to reset, Jodie and I have been working on policies, and we've just got 2 to do really. I think that Jodie's working with Tony on EV charging, and there's one which we're going to have a discussion about, which is travel plans, but the rest of them have gone off for review on that. Obviously, when we get the feedback from ACOM, then we'll probably reconvene a meeting to review that and to discuss just what we want to include in these policies, to make, as a result of their feedback. Yes.
I would like to, Patrick, add, I'm not sure if you're doing anything on-street car parking on your transport at all. If you're not, I'd like to put a paper forward on that. And the reason being is we got planning applications coming through at the moment. Flats are a prime example in town, where we're building flats without any car park spaces. And you only have to go in town, which I'm sure we all have to. Well, not even in town, but outside the town centre. And there's literally no room to park cars now. These streets are absolutely chock-a-block. And we did manage to get a planning application turned down for 82 to 84, was it 52, 54 Grays Road, where they wanted to knock one house down and build about 4 flats there, but they didn't have sufficient car parking on site. So they suggested that there was on-street car parking, which there isn't. And we managed to get that turned down because there was no on-street car parking. And I'd like a policy in there somewhere to state that in future, any house, once this has been adopted, the neighbourhood plan review, that any application comes through for be it a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, whatever, in or around the centre of Henley, has sufficient car park spaces, because we are absolutely saturated now. Patrick.
Do you want to deal with that under car parking? Because I've kind of shuffled that off to you. Or should we get together to discuss just where it sits?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I put it down for car park and I was asked to remove it to transport.
Okay.
I'll have a chat with you on it then.
Yeah. And Jodie and I can have a chat on it when we talk about the residual policy, because we could probably roll it into that. At least have a template in there to start off with.
Yeah, okay, I'll sort something out on that then. Which brings us on to car parks, which I probably haven't got too much more work to do on that. Jeff was working with me and Don offered to come on board, and I was going to include the on-street parking include in that, but I was advised to obviously speak to you, Patrick, and I think it's better keeping that away from the central car parks. Yeah, Patrick.
Are you dealing with long stay as well now?
Yeah, we'll do. I'll do all of them. I'll do those. Item 5, little 5, is new housing development rights since March 2017. David Whitehead sent, I'm not sure if you sent this to everybody, David, this 4-page document.
I think everyone should have received it.
Yeah. Would you like to talk through it?
Well, yes, I think you've all seen previous versions of the spreadsheet. I've revised it the other day, and as Ken says, I sent round copies. Could you indicate if you received a copy?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, good, yeah. So most people at least saw one. The numbers haven't changed that much, and the conclusions are very much the same, that the housing developments that are in train, as it were, from the first neighbourhood plan, together with the planning approvals that have been granted since last April, more than satisfy the demands of SODC for 115 new houses. So the only sites of the 13 that are necessary to meet the new neighbourhood plan, or the new local plan rather, are the those that were included in the existing neighbourhood plan. That's Chiltern's End, Wyvale and the Youth Centre. And no greenfield sites will be needed. And the spreadsheet and my summary have been vetted now by another person, and I'm confident now of the figures. I mean, there may be one or two that come and go out of the approvals or waiting lists, but basically I'm confident that the numbers are sound. So if anyone, I'd be interested to know if anyone has found any discrepancies. I mean, there's always the possibility of errors creeping through. And if anyone disagrees with the logic, otherwise I put it forward for committee agreement.
Jodie.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that these numbers aren't set in stone at this stage, and that they will be changing through the process as more houses get granted permission and are built. But it is just worth to note it's highly likely that we will have to provide affordable housing due to the requirement within the local plan, which sets out that we should seek to meet demonstrable local needs, for example, through affordable housing where the housing provision is in excess of the requirement. So although we've got good evidence here to support the houses being built, I just wanted to just state that we're likely to need to build for affordable housing.
Yes, the obvious answer to that is 357 Reading Road, of which the town council has control. And I did have an idea, which I might just float here, that the lady who offered the field at Harpston between the allotments and Sheeplands Farm was prepared to effectively donate it, I believe, if affordable housing was built there. Now, if she's prepared to make that donation, the possibility arises that the council could build entirely affordable housing on 357 Road and receive the subsidy from the sale of the field on the supposition that Harpston Parish Council or members, residents of Harpston, I was told once, may be interested in purchasing that field if the sums worked out. The lady who owns the field could have the same reassurance that affordable houses in perpetuity would be constructed there, and Harpston would have their field, and well, circle, a virtuous circle. There may be a flaw in that argument because I understand that the sum involved to allow the town council to build entirely affordable houses might be in the region of 2 to 3 million. But anyway, I'll leave it there for the moment.
I'll respond to that first, then I'll let Kester go on. I don't think it's up to this working group to wheel and deal on saying who should do what, when, and how. I don't think that's what we're here for. I think if people that own property wish to put forward similar ideas, I could give you reasons why it doesn't work on 353 and 357 Reading Road, but I won't, for an example. So yeah, I hear where you're coming from, David. I would just mention actually, and then I go to Kester, that there are 3 or 4 areas of land which were in the original neighbourhood plan, and you mentioned 353, 357 Reading Road as one. There's the youth centre as another one. Friday Street probably won't go ahead, the TA centre, and also the Mill Lane one. Although there were 55 units built there, they are not classed as 55, and that came from SODC. So we really haven't hit the total of 500. So I think that's why we should take Jodie's comments on board at the moment. I think this is still open to what's being proposed by the 13 areas that we've selected to go forward to the next round. Kester.
Well, first of all, many thanks to David for his calculations. I certainly haven't found any flaws or weaknesses in them, but I take Jodie's message with some gloom that they may not be as good as they look. As for the deal, no, I don't think it works from the Harpston point of view either, even if the chairman allowed us to wheel a deal. I don't think those figures add up. And of course, Harpston stands very firmly on the primary objective of keeping a green belt between the 2 communities. I think we will have to leave that for the moment. We remain adamant that Juliet Noble's field should remain a field, and all the time the flooding proneness arguments are strengthening as OCC highways look at the possibilities of refurbishing Sheep House Lane, that is the so-called unnamed track from Harpston Church down to the main road, Reading Road. I don't think there's anything more for me to say, is there?
I don't know, Kester, you're saying it.
Well, I mean, I wondered if you had any more questions, Joan.
Not at the moment. I'm just taking questions actually.
Right, well, I'm content to leave it there. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to ask any questions on that item? Rebecca.
Well, actually, it was on the numbers, actually. I was going to ask about Thames Farm because nothing is going on there. They've shut up shop and gone away. What is happening with that site?
I can answer that. They've postponed to the spring producing a, I forget the exact technical term, but basically a flooding risk assessment. They certainly haven't, Taylor Wimpey, certainly haven't given up their plans to build there, but they are encountering very considerable opposition from a mainly Shiplake inspired group of residents who have acquired considerable funds and are prepared to fight the development all the way.
Let's ask. I will ask you now a question, Kester. How does that affect the other areas of land that are either going to come forward or already have permission?
Like Crossfields and Wyvale.
Yeah.
I don't myself see that it should affect either. I think the Crossfields one has been dismissed. I hope so. Wyvale was approved, and I don't think that that will be affected. But Patrick, I see, may have more to say on that.
Yeah, Patrick.
If you look at the EA flooding map for surface water, there's a stream that runs across the Thames Farm site in the winter if there's enough water, if there's enough rainfall. And there's another one that runs down the lane between the Wyvale site and the Thames Farm site, effectively. And it runs in and forms a pool, a pond, at the bottom by the road. So they're going to have a huge problem if they ever try to develop that corner. And it's going to get worse. I mean, one of the things we know about climate change is that we're going to get more rain. And like it or not, we're going to end up with more and more flooding. So I think Taylor Wimpey are right to consider this, because it's going to become prohibitively expensive to pump out the water all the time. And that's forgetting the damage that they're going to do to the village of Shiplake.
Okay. Joan Clark.
Just a final comment on that. They're going to have a real problem because the two solutions that they've come up with have proved completely untenable. One was the one that they were going to, they can't have because the chalk has got sinkholes in it. And then the other one, which was as plunking it out to Lashbrook, I think is absolutely, excuse the pun, dead in the water. There's no chance of that. So what they have to come up with is a third solution. And it's very hard to know quite what that third solution could be. When you look at the site and you look at the possibilities and the options, any kind of engineering solution is going to be, as Patrick said, prohibitively expensive. So I think they've got a real problem there, because clearly they didn't do the proper due diligence before they went ahead with the site. And nobody seemed to have spotted the geology of that area and the sinkhole possibilities.
Okay, I think that's sufficient debate on that issue. Let's move on to little 6, which is business and community engagement, which is community first. Would you like to make a comment on that, Jodie?
Yeah, so as I said before, the Neighbourhood Plan survey has been extended to the 1st of February. After that, we'll be in a good position to establish the vision and objectives for the plan, and should be able to bring that to the next committee meeting. Again, we're aiming for the exhibition to take place to seek views from the community for the sites taken forward for further consideration and the proposed policies in April. So yeah.
Okay, anybody wish to speak on that? Right, okay, the next one is little 7, liaison with other parishes carrying out neighbourhood plan reviews. This is probably not, well, actually it is to do with neighbourhood plan. We've got a meeting tomorrow afternoon with Tame Town Council, talking about community land trust setting up. They have one in Tame. I believe they even have a piece of land now laid out for affordable houses. So we're going to meet with Tame Town Council and the members of the Community Land Trust tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully we'll get enough information to set one of these up as soon as possible. Councillor Thomas.
Can you let me know when that is? I'd like to join if I can.
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Are you around?
I can, probably from about 2:15, 2:30.
Okay, I'll send you the information through.
Thank you.
And if anybody else would like to go to that, if you want, probably too many, but Patrick, yeah?
I'd like to, but of course, you know, I'm tied up elsewhere.
Well, that's right. Okay, anyway, we'll bring the information back, but you know, we're going to speak to the right people anyway. We're going to speak to obviously the town council that organised it in the first place, and obviously we've got the chairman of the Community Land Trust there as well. So it's basically how we set it up, and rather than just go along and try and set one up ourselves, you know, if they've got all the details there, it's going to be a lot easier to do. So that's tomorrow. Other than that, I've got nothing else on liaison with other parishes. Okay. Review of all existing sites. Well, actually, I've got really nothing to report. There's really nothing happening. Although I would say it looks like the majority of the units on the corner of Deanfield Road, Deanfield Avenue, looks like the majority of those have been sold now, which surprised me, but there we go. So that site's just about finished, and Highlands Park continues. I heard before Christmas they did sell some units up there, so that's encouraging for them. But other than that, I've got no update on any of the other sites, unless anybody else has information that I do not have. Councillor Thomas?
Can I just double check that Stuart Turner hasn't come forward yet?
Kath, did you speak to those or Jodie?
Haven't come forward yet, no. I'll chase that though.
I think we did a couple of months ago. We did ask them why they didn't put the land in again. Jodie?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything since then, but I will get back to them just to see where they're at.
Yeah, it would be good to understand, you know, exactly what their intention is there, because if they don't, you know, include themselves in the next round, by the time of the next round, then, you know, they're going to have themselves at a disadvantage, I would have said.
Well, they're still in there with the 44 units anyway that they proposed in the first place.
Yeah, but I thought that we were reviewing all sites.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay, we take that on board. Thank you. Other than that, I've got nothing else there. Item little 9, industrial land. We're obviously looking for a hectare of industrial land, and the only land that has come forward, unless anybody else has some, is the area at Highlands Farm, which they were proposing to put some industrial land there. Other than that, I have nothing. Councillor Thomas again.
There is some land on Newtown Road which says is for sale. Does anyone know anything more about that? Who owns it and what their proposals are for it, if any?
I do, but I'll leave that to Kath.
Is that the site that's used, it's sort of rough with, used for car parking at the moment? The council has made an offer on that site previously. And I was advised, last time I spoke to the agent, it was under offer. And I haven't had an update on that, but I can look at that again.
The last time I spoke to anybody from Wilkins on it, they haven't got anybody that's putting an offer now. They did have an offer on it, but that's fell through. So I think they're quite happy for it just to sit there. but the offers were over £1 million. That's the kind of money you're looking for.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 11, oh no, item 10, site selection. Well, that will carry on after the presentation and the exhibition in April, as it is now. Hopefully it will take place in April. Item 11, conservation area and local list. Jodie.
So this has slightly been delayed due to the restrictions of COVID-19 as well. Purcell are intending to do a walk around and to obtain research in February now, so to start the work on it, so it can be completed in time for the public exhibition in April.
Okay. Anybody wish to speak on that? I don't see anybody. And the final one, small 12, is climate emergency 2030. Patrick.
Yeah, just to say again, Jodie and I put policies together. They've been sent off. A question for Jodie: is Dan Stone looking at those as well?
Hasn't really got back to me. I haven't heard much from him. Obviously, their free advice is stopping in February, so that might be something to do with it. But I will try and contact him again to see if he's been able to look at it.
Yeah, see if you can squeeze some free advice out of him in the next 4 days.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And again, on that one, once we get feedback on that, we will convene the group again to review the feedback and take it on. Okay.
Let's move on then to item 7, Oxfordshire Neighbourhood Plans Alliance, the OMPA. Yeah. Patrick?
Yeah, so Jodie and Kath both joined the webinar that we had on climate change policies. We had Dan Stone, ACOM, Jessie from ACOM. We had Simon Burkitt. We had Anthea, someone or other, Benson, SODC councillor. And we had Ricardo Rios. And it was, I think it was a good webinar. People seemed to be pleased with the content and the way it went. And we got some useful tips ourselves from Simon Burkitt, particularly about selecting the examiner or inspector. Do we have an inspector or an examiner? I can't remember which it is. But anyway, we get a chance to nominate the inspector that we want. And we have one name already in the bag, potentially. And what's more, if SODC resist that and want to put in one of theirs, their tame ones, then we can fight that, and Simon Burkitt is happy to help us. And it can make a lot of difference as to what policies you do and do not get accepted. Just to say that it's marked. There are 2 examiners that SODC seem to prefer, and they get 90% of the business. But that doesn't mean to say we can't choose our own examiner.
Are you suggesting that our preferred examiner is outside those 2?
I think it probably would be, because those 2 examiners, the reason they get picked every time is because they do exactly what SODC want, not what the neighbourhood plan groups want.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak on that? I think we'll leave that there.
Yeah, all right.
I think it could be front page, Patrick, next week.
Yeah, okay.
Item 8, the project timeline. That's on the back of your agenda on page 11. Do you want to talk about that very briefly, Jodie?
Yeah, just to note the timeline. Everything's really been pushed back whilst we haven't been able to do the public engagement exhibitions in the town hall. So yeah, as we've said, we're working on those policies in the meantime, so we can get everything ready for April. The local plan does have a requirement that we need to be adequately progressed with allocating sites within 12 months of the adoption of the local plan. So I've set that out accordingly in this plan, and looking to submit by November later this year. So hopefully we won't be too delayed yet more in terms of COVID. Yeah.
Okay, so we can just note that. Item 9, the government planning guidance. I don't know who's had chance to read this. From what I hear, we haven't had any anybody come back with any answers to the questions on what their seems to be their proposals are. This is from central government. Does anybody wish to speak on this? Councillor Thomas.
Well, I'd actually be really interested to hear from Jodie first, but I didn't realise we were supposed to be actually getting you know, something back in writing or something. I just thought we were discussing it here today. But no, I've got pages of notes on this, and it has to be an objection. It has to be an objection. I mean, I'm just talking about the first part of it here. But like I said, I'd be interested to hear from Jodie first before I go any further.
Good. Yeah, Jodie.
So I was just going to suggest that we just talk about it now, and you can raise any of your concerns. I'll start off by just setting out what the key proposals are. But if you would like to send any detailed comments to me and Kath and Ken over the next day, or well, until tomorrow, and then I can put it together. Basically, I don't think we'll be able to go through each of the questions now. We don't really have enough time. So just let me know if you have any more comments after this committee.
Jodie, I noticed that the deadline is 28th, so it's only 3 days away. But
yeah, yeah, unfortunately, they've like I just noticed when I was looking on the government website that it was the consultation was running. We would normally try and get it to the planning committee as well, but we haven't got enough time. So I've emailed out to all the councillors for their comments, but yeah, hopefully if you could get it within the next day or so, your comments, if you could have a detailed look at it, then I can pull it together before Thursday. Let me just set out just the main proposals. So the measures is to support housing delivery and economic recovery and public service infrastructure. They are asking for our views on a proposed new permitted development rights for the change of use from commercial, business and service use to residential. The new rights would expand the range of commercial properties that could be converted to new housing, and this could mean that the uses including restaurants, indoor sports centres and creches could be changed to housing without needing a planning application. These will be determined by a prior approval process, but that checklist is very, very limited, and it doesn't look at very many considerations at all. The rights that they're proposing would also remove the existing floor space limits on the scale of conversions allowed. So under the existing permitted development rights regime, a cap exists on the amount of light industrial retail floor plates that could be converted to residential. So this could mean that large offices or industrial units could be allowed to change to residential, again, without the need for planning. This would have a significantly harder to influence town centre development through the neighbourhood plan if this was to go ahead. Also set out in this paper, they're suggesting further flexibilities for public service infrastructure, so allowing schools, hospitals, prisons, etc., to be able to undertake further development without needing planning permission. And these could mean that they could extend quite excessively. Another concerning element of this consultation is with regards to the consultation periods for applications. So currently, any statutory consultees, including town and parish councils, have a 21-day period to respond to planning applications. And this consultation is proposing to reduce that down to 14 days. And that would have a big impact on ensuring that we provide comments within that time limit. We have planning committee at the moment every 3 weeks, and you just wouldn't be able to get responses in time, which is very concerning. So there's a lot within this consultation document. It'd be good to hear your concerns, but as I say, just make sure you get them over to me if you have other detailed responses. Thank you.
I'm going to go to, thanks for that, Jodie. I'm going to go to Jeff Luckett first, because he's obviously going to speak on behalf of Henley Society, I would imagine.
Oh, actually, I was going to speak on behalf of Civic Voice, which is the umbrella organisation that oversees groups such as our own. They've produced a comprehensive response to this, and so too has Julian Brooks on behalf of the Henley Society. So you might be interested in seeing what he's had to say, because he's gone into it very thoroughly.
If you could get that passed over today, Jeff, that would be handy. Yeah.
I don't know that he's actually finalised it, but I'll speak to him at the end of this meeting.
Yeah, as long as we've got a draft, yeah. Can I just go to Michelle first, and then I'll come back to you, Patrick? Michelle Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that very good summary, Jodie. I think what I will do is I will put down my views in terms of, Chair of Planning on behalf of Henley Town Council, but there's very, very little time to actually include the remainder of the Planning Committee. So it is really going to have to be, my own observations. I hope the committee find that acceptable, but obviously it has gone out to the Planning Committee, hasn't it, this consultation? Yeah. So basically, in summary, just talking about the very first part of it, which is basically banks, shops, restaurants, being able to turn those into housing, I think will be the death of the high street. Now, Henley-on-Thames will have some, like filter in there because of the conservation area in the town centre, but there really is very little information in there, as to how, that information, how we can actually object to anything. As we all know, sometimes we need protection from our own planning authority. So that's the concern there, is that there's just not enough information on how we go about that. And again, from the government, I'm talking on behalf of the whole country here, so but be careful what you wish for. Are they really seriously saying that they want all of our high streets to be turned into just housing? Because that's what they'll end up with if they put it into hands directly into the hands of landlords. So I think, this has been mooted as far back as sort of 2013, and I'm amazed that the media hasn't been all over this, because normally this kind of, change of use of permitted development rights would be all over the newspapers. So, the journalists have been caught napping on this one, I think, but no, it'll be hugely damaging for the high streets up and down the country. I would prefer to see them do some other, bring some other, schemes forward first, really. So, for instance, the business rates, that needs to be wholly reformed. We've been calling for that for years and years. So, that needs to be looked at first. There are 300,000 empty homes in this country, in England alone. Why don't they look at that first before, allowing landlords to convert, all of our high streets into houses? Compulsory purchases, under the Locality Act, to allow people to compulsorily buy these for you know, perhaps turning them into artisan spaces or something. I mean, there's just no imagination there at all. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know where the Conservative government are coming from on this one. It's very, very, very concerning and disappointing. I'll put all of this down on with all of the evidence and all of the organisations that back up what I've said.
Okay, thank you for that, Michelle. Patrick.
Could I ask that there's a template available on the website, Discovered, which gives you the framework, and if that's together with Julian's paper, which I've had sight of, and Civic Voice, if we could circulate that to the whole of this group and to the planning, and ask that everyone fill it in, however much, doesn't matter, fill it in individually and then send it collectively to Jodie so that she can aggregate it. The more voice we give it, the better. They've done it again. They sneaked it out, I think, on the 23rd of December. And
before Christmas. Just before Christmas.
Yeah, and I actually looked for it. If you Google it, you can't find it. They've done a reverse search engine optimization. I don't know how they've done it to a cloak, and I couldn't find it using Google. So I looked for all existing MHPs, wherever they are, the consultations, and it didn't appear. So they've really, that's why the press haven't got it. It's because it's gone undercover. So I think if we could spread that information as widely as we can, and get as many people to fill it in as best they can, using Julian's evidence as a starter and a template, that'd be good.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? Is that you, Joan? Joan Clark.
I just wondered, have other people read that information that Julian has put out? Because it's really excellent, and I just wonder if we could back it, or quite what its status is as far as we're concerned, because he's got some really good stuff in there. Has anyone else read it?
I haven't had it.
No.
No, I'd like to have it.
I'm not quite sure how I got it. I think someone just sent it to me and said, have you seen this? And it was really good.
He sent it to a few of us, I think, as a personal favour. But I think if Jeff can ask him if he wouldn't mind circulating it more widely, I think that's the correct way of doing it.
Yeah.
I would do that willingly.
Does anybody else wish to speak before I speak? Jackie, did you want to speak? And then Kester. Jackie, no, Kester.
I should like to assure Michelle that it isn't just left-wingers who are appalled by this. Very traditional members of the Tory party share her doubts and amazement that anything as stupid as this could be put forward. Just think of Ken's point about parking, for one thing, how it would completely undermine anything we did in the neighbourhood plan about parking, would jam up the town, I would have thought. And everything that I've seen you suffering from on Newtown Road would be magnified.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so all strength to your arm in opposing this absurdity.
I think what we have here was almost similar 3 or 4 months before Christmas when we had the other 2 documents came out, and to me they were very similar. You know, there's some young lads in an office somewhere has decided to write a paper. Someone's obviously given a direction, and I think we've come up with another one here. And what worries me with all this more than anything, it's really a one-size-fits-all. So, you know, this document could go in London, Manchester, Liverpool, and it could go in Henley, it could go in Wallingford, and it could go in Tame. And if we're going to do things like this, you know, you have to look at the smaller towns and the villages. You may look at the bigger towns and then the cities. But have a document like this, which you're going to use for every area in the UK, is absolutely crackers. You know, one of the items that Jodie picked up, you know, the 14 days instead of the 21 days, well, it would be impossible to do that. So you'd finish up with nobody would be objecting because they wouldn't be able to get their objections in time. Yeah. And as Kester said, that what would really worry me is how would our only industrial site finish up? Well, we know the answer to that. If this stupid scheme was to go forward, we could all go on and on for ages. But I'll go back to Patrick, then to Rebecca.
Just to say that one of their advisors on this is Savills, and I think that says it all.
I think you've said it all. Rebecca.
I would like to say actually something which I would love to be able to go down to Henley High Street and not have lots and lots of empty shops. It's very depressing. It makes the place look a little bit run down.
Many empty ones.
There's quite a lot of empty ones. A lot have been empty for a long time.
Empty shops.
We've built all the new ones and they're empty too. What I would say is that I feel that if we are going to say this isn't what we want, and of course I would love the high street. I agree with you. I would like the high street to be a nice, vibrant, buzzing place. We also need to think of what else we can have, because it seems that retail, if we take it from our own experience in Henley, retail seems to struggle in Henley. And that is the truth. We have a lot of empty places. So how do we stop that happening? Otherwise, we would always be vulnerable to people saying we've got an empty shop, it's been empty for years, let's turn it into flats.
Let me just correct you there, Rebecca, and I know normally you're pretty factual, but we're well under 10% of empty shops in Henley, and that is a fact. And I can also tell you as well that the majority in shops in Henley have had offers put into them, but the landlords will not accept the offer. So there's the problem. There are plenty of businesses want to come into this town. They are, but they're not prepared to pay the kind of rents that some of the landlords are after.
So is there something that we could do? I mean, it always seems very strange to me that landlords will turn an offer down and would rather have the place empty than see a tenant in it at a lower rent. Is there anything that we could recommend we do as a council that forces landlords to take a lower rent after a while?
Not that I can think of, but it's a good idea. Michelle Thomas.
Yeah, just to come back on a couple of points, Rebecca, that's exactly what I was referring to before. We need wholesale reform of this system to be able to protect the high street. Like, for instance, landlords should be perhaps forced, in a way to take these lower offers, instead of just saying, right, well, I'm going to hold out for the best offer, and then if I don't get it, I'm just going to turn it into a house.
Yeah.
Business rates. I mean, retail has been calling out for business rate reform for years and years and years. It's a nasty, nasty tax, and there's no, there's no, there's no level playing field at the moment for retailers.
Patrick, now I'm going to move on from this one.
I think the one effective measure is not to allow tax rebates on empty properties, and if they were to agree that, you'd find suddenly all of those properties would fill up, because it's then worth their while to fill them at any rate in order to prevent them having to pay rate. But I think with this existing, with Genric in charge of housing, you forget it. It's not going to happen.
Well, I know. I'll come to you, Jackie. I know the point you made, Rebecca, about these shops and why do landlords leave them empty. I've asked those questions many, many years ago, and the answer I was given, it saves them paying tax. Now, I don't understand why you'd want us to save paying tax if you were going to make money on renting them, but that was always the answer that I was given. So you've probably got a landlord could own a dozen shops. So if one's empty, it doesn't make any difference because he's going to save a lot of tax somewhere down the road. It doesn't make sense, but that's the answer I was given. Jackie.
Yes, the similar papers that were out last year, John Halshaw produced his comment and opinions on those, which is quite good at the time. I just wondered if there's anything he's produced on this paper.
Is that the one from Wokingham?
Yeah.
Yes. Just a thought.
I can send him an email later. Ask a question. Yeah. Oh, that was a nice little conversation, debate. Would anybody else like to mention anything? I think we've just about summed up on there.
Just one tiny point, Ken.
Yeah, Joan.
It's not just us. There was an item on the radio this morning in which someone was just analysing the situation, saying exactly the same things about the high street and the death of the high street, and saying that the only ways to save it were the reform, things that we've mentioned, the reform of the business rates. Was the main thing, and also putting, say, some sort of limit on the landlord about how long can keep the premise empty before having to let it or put it for another use, and not just sit on it until such time as people say, oh well, you can have your housing because it's been empty for X years.
Which is what they try and do. Actually, I think Savills are quite good at that, aren't they, Patrick?
Yeah.
Give them reports after 2 or 3 years they've been advertising.
That's right. So we've had one of those, haven't we?
Probably shouldn't have said that, but there we go. Yeah, I can give an example if the local papers want one. Right, let's move on. Item 10, next steps. Jodie, do you just want to comment on that quickly?
So just to wrap up that, I will get Julian's response from Jeff. I'll send out the template, and then you can fill that in and provide that to me, and I'll collate them in and put it in before Thursday. The next steps for the neighbourhood plan. So to get those topic papers ready for the next committee. Also, once the survey's complete, to bring together the vision and objectives for that as well. And they're the main things, really.
Okay.
Also, ACOM, once we've got that back, we can progress our policies with the working groups as well.
Okay, fine. Okay, just move on. Item 11, next meeting. We've put forward a date of the 1st of March. If you could put that in your diaries. It's Monday, the 1st of March. Okay.
Same time.
Thank you, Patrick.
Same time.
Yep, same time, 3 o'clock. Yeah. Can I thank you all for attending this afternoon? I think we've moved forward, had some excellent comments. And yeah, if you can get any information back to Jodie, Kath and myself, you could send it to all three of us, please, by tomorrow, if that's not asking too much. There's no soccer on TV tonight, so you should be okay. Free time. Okay, thanks for all your time. I now conclude the meeting, and thank you for any